Guys, wait until I show you the fish. Tiny little white fly. 10 pounds, guys, right there. Look at that big rainbow. Big square tail. Game on at Collins Lake. Congratulations. That's a monstrous fish. Gotta come in. We got a big fish on here, guys. We got a big fish on. He was smoking the drag in the rod holder. I'm clearing lines because we don't want any tangles. Let me straighten this motor just a bit. Something huge. Look at that fish, Marty. Look at that fish. That's why we throw flies. Whoa! Let's start. Look at that fish, guys, on a black metalhead. I don't know, 10 feet deep or something. But what a thrill. That fish was, it just went and dragged, and holy moly. First fish of the day, about 9 pounds. We'll take that.
Yes, we will.
I'll put him in the box and then we'll get some still.
Okay. That's a hell of a way to start the day.
That is the hell of a way to start the day. I'll show you that fly in a second, guys. There's a fly right there, guys. We were power trolling with flies. We were going about 2.5 miles an hour when that fish hit, and game on. Howdy guys, Kel Kellogg here. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're not already a subscriber, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. And that way you'll always know when I'm here on YouTube talking about trout fishing. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. I've got my leaders right here all rigged up. These are the leaders I've been using. But before I get into that, I'm going to share a tip with you that if you follow my advice, it's going to absolutely change the way you trout fish and your expectations of what you're going to catch out on the water. For me, you know, this took place quite a few years ago now. I picked up some trolling flies. At first, I didn't use them. Then I started using them and I wasn't catching anything, but I stuck with it. And, you know, then I started catching the occasional fish on a trolling fly. I had some good outings at Davis. I had some good outings at Collins Lake. And then all of a sudden, I was out at Lake Elmanor chasing big rainbows. That's a pond smelt lake. I was top lining a white pond smelt imitating fly. I was going about 2.2 miles an hour. I had that fly 60 feet behind my kayak with just a small split shot on the line. There was a little bit of ripple on the water. I wasn't catching anything. It had been a tough day. And the next thing I knew, I was hooked up to the biggest wild rainbow I've ever hooked. Biggest wild rainbow I've ever hooked to date. I landed that fish. It turned out to be over 7 pounds. And my eyes were opened as to the effectiveness of trolling flies when it comes to catching fish of trophy proportions. You know, fast forward to today, my clients have literally caught dozens and dozens and dozens of trout over 8 pounds on the FHS pontoon boat, and the vast majority of those fish have come on trolling flies. And it's true all over the state. When I fish Shasta, my big fish come on trolling flies. When I fish Don Pedro, my biggest fish come on trolling flies. Now, trolling flies aren't necessarily the best bait to use at any given time, but I'm convinced, at least for me and fans of the channel, because I get feedback from people all over the West Coast, that trolling flies are often the best big trout bait. Let's get into what I'm pulling right now to kind of illustrate the point. I'll open this up. Of course, I have all my leaders wrapped on pool floaties, and I was keeping these in a big Ziploc bag, but that bag just started to drive me insane because it was always getting smashed. Everything was getting tangled together. So I cut pool floaties to fit in this rigid Plano box, and it's been working out much better. Now, on this leader holder right here, those are my number baits, okay? I'm heading out to the lake later on today. These are the baits I'm going to be pulling for numbers, most likely up at Collins Lake. I have a full week of guide trips coming up, so I'm going to be out there looking for limits, but I'm also going to be out there looking for trophy trout, because trophy trout are my passion. But there we see a couple Trout Trix worms and one of my trigger minnows. Those have been producing limits. those are producing, you know, the occasional big fish mixed in with the keeper size fish, say fish in that 1.5 to 3.5 pound range. But again, those are my numbers baits, and I have a bunch of blank leaders tied up there to replace those when I break those. But those aren't my big fish baits. Every day, all day, at least one of my rods is armed with a trolling fly. Let me set this box down because I want to talk a little more in depth about these flies. And look what Robin got. Big old 6-pound rainbow right there. Awesome. Awesome. So as I said, every day, all day long, pretty much, I have a trolling fly in the water. And I usually have it, the fish are kind of starting to drop down in the water column as the water temperature rises. But I typically have the trolling fly a little bit higher than all the other baits. If I'm running stuff off the downrigger, you know, at 20 feet, I'll position my trolling fly at 15 feet. Guys, got wind this morning, power trolling, black metalhead, at least 6 pounds, man. Beautiful trout, big fish. We're just getting started. Got him on the trailer hook. No trailer hook, no fish. If I'm running, you know, catching most of my fish at 10 feet, I'll run that trolling fly right under the surface, particularly if there's wind. I like to get that fly way behind the boat, 175 to 200 feet back, typically running it above and beyond all my other offerings. And sometimes I'll only get 1 or 2 strikes a day on the trolling fly, but very often that is the biggest fish of the day. The last really big trout I caught at Collins was, when was that? It was this week. It was Monday morning. It was a 9-pound trout. You saw that trout caught in the beginning of this video. It was 9 pounds, and it was caught on, I'm not sure which exact one. It was on one of these 2 flies. They're both the same. That is a green and black metalhead. And I was going well over 2 miles an hour when that fish hit. I was actually power trolling with flies. I think I was going about 2.5, 2.7, something like that, when that trout smashed that fly. And it was actually pretty exciting because I hadn't even gotten all the rods in the water yet. We just started out. I had a single angler with me, Marty. He was a reschedule from this winter when we had all the bad weather. So we were out. I told him, hey, let's spend the first 2 hours power trolling, hunting for big fish. 5 minutes into the trip, that rod on the port side, one of my hybrid lead core rigs, that rod just doubled over. It got slammed. That fish was instantly into the drag. I started clearing lines. Marty's caught big fish with me before, so I was totally confident he wasn't going to do anything crazy on the rod, like tighten the drag or whatever. He worked the fish, I worked the boat, and we scooped that fish into the net, you know, uneventfully, and put him in the box. Bright red fillets, awesome fish, biggest trout of Marty's life. And I've heard that a lot at Collins this spring. You know, that's the biggest trout I've ever caught. You would think, and it's often true, that the lighter colored flies would be working at Collins right now, and some days they work very well. It's a threadfin shad lake, but the #1 color right now has been black. The fish are really going for that hard contrast. Black metalhead, #2 big fish today, guys. We're having to work for them, but there are some big fish out here. The black fly against that water. The water's clearing up. We got 6 to 7 feet of visibility now, yet the black fly continues to produce the best results in terms of big fish for me. I've had several 7s. I think the 9's the biggest one I've gotten on a black fly. I've had several 7s, lots of 6s, lots of 5s. So the black fly is absolutely working. Just like any other lure, you kind of need to play with colors when you're fishing flies. Sometimes they want the olive and white. Sometimes they want the pink and white. Orange is one of my absolute staples. But this spring, for me at least, it's been all about the black flies. And, you know, trolling them at all speeds, anywhere from 1.8 all the way up to 3 miles an hour. That's another nice thing about trolling flies. You can troll them at virtually any speed. These flies will catch fish at 1 mile an hour. They will also catch fish at 3 miles an hour. So here's the moral of the story. If you want to catch more trophy trout, devote 1 rod in your spread to pulling flies. Have a fly in the water 90% of the time. It's probably not going to get hit as much as your other rods. But when it does get hit, you've got a very good chance of getting a trophy trout. Flies have big hooks on them. They hook, they hold well. So that's another advantage trolling flies give you. The trolling fly is my Rapala. Most guys say, you know, my trophy bait is a Rapala or a Yozuri or some other minnow plug. Well, for me, my Rapala is a trolling fly. The fish see them less. The flies have a big silhouette. They have very realistic, lifelike movement through the water, and big trophy trout have a hard time laying off of them. If you're in the market for flies, get on over to fishhuntshoot.com. We'll hook you up with what you need. We've also got hybrid lead core rigs. My metalhead trolling flies like these have just come back into stock. So if you're one of the guys who was on the waiting list, you'll find those there. And last but not least, if you'd like to join me out on the water, I have availability in May. Get on over to our guide calendar. That's at fishhuntshoot.com as well. Pick a date. Book your spot, and you'll be joining me out on the water, learning the finer points of trout trolling while reeling in some big, hard fighting fish. Who knows? You might be the next guy to land a 10-pound rainbow on one of my trolling flies. It happens all the time, happens pretty often. So why not, why not let it be you? Anyhow, I'm Kel Kellogg. I'm out of here for now. Have a great Sunday. This video is airing Sunday morning, and I'll be back at you real soon. I'll be shooting video up at the lake and bringing you more hard-hitting trout fishing tips as we go forward. Arm yourself with trolling flies and get your big trout on. That's my advice to you. I'm Kel Kellogg.